Third Monday, Monday Night Live. This is an extension of the Monday night market that we had last year, all of June and all of October. Instead of doing that, it could be the same number of Mondays, but it'll be spread over the year. So
well, we're on Friday because they were going to have third Friday art night.
Yeah,
that's why we ever got started.
They don't do that anymore.
No.
But third Mondays now, Monday night on market from 5 to 8. They'll have live music. The musicians will be paid. They'll be paid by the Winnsboro Economic Development Corporation. Has funded the music on that like they did last year. And it'll be Monday nights every month except July and August, which are the two real hot months. And so they don't think they'll get anybody for that. And so this Monday night, the Pine Tones, which is Gus Gustafson and Lindy Hearn, which we wanted to call them the Coneheads, but they didn't like that name, so we made them the Pine Cones instead. Will be performing, and there'll be at least 30 vendors, food vendors and wine vendors and crafts people and produce, all kinds.
Do you get business on that night?
It depends how good the music is. If the music is mediocre, I get a lot of business. If it's too hot or too cold, they get a lot of business because they want to get out.
And if it's good music, they stay there.
They stay out there and drink their wine and outside, and I don't see a soul. But hey, Monday nights I never see a soul anyway, so at worst, I'm the same as I was before. At best, I get business, so I'm happy about it. This coming Monday night, the 21st. And those are my announcements. Do you have any other announcements?
Do you have a poem to read?
I'm going to, I keep finding stuff, but I just found this today. This is a book published in 1985 called An Inland Journey, Poems and Meditations by Tom Whiteside. And that was him in 1985, so I'm sure he's gone by now. And this is a picture of the book.
Nice looking flared pants.
Yeah, probably bell bottoms,
They were.
And I won't read you his whole bio, but he's a lifelong resident of Northwest Arkansas. He's an award-winning poet and essayist. His work has been in the Christian Science Monitor, The Poet, Voices International, Encore, Modern Haiku, Visions, and Arkansas Methodist. You probably are familiar with that. And the Ozark Playground publication, and the Arkansas Gazette. He was born near Gentry, Arkansas. He's a member of the Poets Roundtable of Arkansas, the Poetry Society of Tennessee, the Poetry Society of Texas, the Ozark Writers and Artists Guild, and the Solemn Springs Writers Association. He's been listed in Who's Who of Arkansas, of the South, the Southwest, and the International Who's Who in Poetry. He's a recipient of awards from the National Federation of Poetry Societies, the Mid-South Poetry Festival, the Arkansas Writers Conference, etc., etc. And he is also, his wife Gracie is an accomplished musician. They have 3 children, 11 grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren. And they've been married, they were married for 50 years in 1981. So anyway, that's a little bit about Tom, and I'm going to read a couple of his little poems in here. I've not read any of them. I'm reading them cold, as I normally do. Let's see. Oh, there's some Tennyson. I'm not going to read any Tennyson. Okay.
Cold Read would be a good title. Cold Read would be a good title for a poem.
Cold Read. That's
Cold
what I
Read.
read. Cold readings. Cold readings are when you don't read them before you read them for the first time, before you perform them, if you want to call it that. This is called The Universe Within. Come join me now, and you will go beyond these rugged hills into the universe within, where time is reckoned on another scale, where men and women search to find a common entity, forge a new career, and lose their fear and doubt. That was part 1. Part 2. You'll stand on top an Ozark hill in an autumn sunset, among the maple, oak, and ivy, touched by frost, and there you'll find words to tell about the moment and let the sound of each syllable extend itself into timeliness. You'll witness white cumulus clouds surging in the sky, autumn leaves, red, brown, and yellow, sycamore, sassafras, and dogwood, a blue jay, and a cardinal, each caught in its own way by the evening sun, with great exaltations mirrored on your soul. You'll be in harmony with local time and space, yet in prayer and meditation, you'll reach beyond the local bounds to universal time and space, your finite mind in tune with infinite love. The end. This is called Out of Chaos. Being speaks to disorder and confusion. Galaxies and worlds appear, and I stand here listening. This one is called Faith. Name every spring, every creek, every river, every rock, every hill, every valley. Name them, name them, name them. Out of the unknown all things are born. Out of darkness light is born. Out of solitude community is born. Out of spirit the whole is born. Accept the logos and the canons, and leave the seen phenomena to scientists, for only faith can grasp the unknown magnitudes.
Yes, that's good. Only one more, though. Conrad.
Only one more, you
Only
got.
one more.
Only one more. Okay. All right, another world. I see the mighty hand of time lay waste to animals and men and nature too. I see its hand move with unyielding haste to age implacably all that is new. I see a building crumble into dust, and lifetime works of men soon pass away. I see strong metal weakened by the rust, and strong minds fading with each passing day. But I have seen the seasons come and go, each spring a resurrection everywhere, dead things reborn, and all the world aglow, as though it were an answer to a prayer, to tell me of another world inside, where goals of greater magnitude reside. That was Tom Whiteside.
Good, good, good for Tom.
Bless his heart.
Doc, you want to read one, or would you like
No,
to?
Doc next.
Doc next.
Let me let it go.
Ladies. Okay. All right. These guys already heard it.
No, we didn't.
Okay. You
Go read
shouldn't
it.
listen.
Go read it like you.
Anyway, when Myrna came in, she couldn't stay, so I told her she would really like this one. She knew what I meant. I got irritated a few days ago because I was saying things from a source, and I got, that, what is she talking about? So, all right. Sometimes I feel like the Long Island medium. Right brain, left brain. Hardcore logic versus fifth dimension thinking. I see it in their eyes. What is she saying? Where is this conversation going? I tell a southern tale, an alternative route, one that winds a long way down the road, detours into the past, the present, the future. Artists understand me, accountants don't. I have a point. I delve into Norse mythology and Shakespeare. Just because they can't follow me doesn't make me wrong or nutty. I know what I know, a seer of spirits, a speaker in tongues. That's me. That's all I have to say.
Okay, sounds familiar. I may have heard that before.
Deja vu.
Deja vu all over again.
I didn't know I could speak French.
Who used to say that? Was that Gerald Ford that said that? Deja vu all over again.
Well, this was a Spirit Drove poem that I pulled up after being called to officiate a funeral service today.
Ah,
It's called A Cowboy in Heaven. It's by John Walsh. At the gates I met St. Peter, but the gates were swinging doors. Inside the room looked like an old saloon with sawdust on the floor. Though the air played country music, I could hear every favorite song. I turned back to St. Peter. I said, I just don't understand. He smiled at me so gently, and then he reached out for my hand. He welcomed me to heaven. Said, your faith is what you see. This will be your new forever. Then the angels sang to me. You're a cowboy in heaven. That's the way it meant to be. You're a cowboy in heaven. Go and see your family. Your life began the day you died. Now giddy up and get inside. You're a cowboy in heaven. It's time to meet your destiny. As I walked in through those swinging doors, my heart was beating fast. Reminders everywhere I looked of the life now had passed. The life I lived was the life I loved. And the life now bad past. The life I lived was the life I loved, where the Lord had assured every need. My hat, my horse, my boots, and of course, the good book that I took time to read. Everyone inside had died, yet today they were all living. Singing songs, and carrying on like their sins had been forgiven. I turned back to look for Peter. He just smiled at me and waved. Right then I knew God's promise was true and the life that I loved had been saved. I'm a cowboy in heaven like I'd always prayed to be. I'm a cowboy in heaven, still in all at all I see. My life began the day I died, 'cause now here the other side. I'm a cowboy in heaven, that's what God would do for me. One more verse. The whole place got real quiet, and I heard somebody say, the Spirit is upon us. Let us all join hands and pray. Then suddenly in front of me, a vision had appeared. A man I never met before, in a robe and a beard. He told me he'd been watching, and what a good job I had done. He put his arms around me and said, I love you, son. I've never felt such joy before, complete and utter bliss. I know that I was home for sure when Jesus told me this. You're a cowboy in heaven, that's what I chose for thee. You're a cowboy in heaven where your soul is now set free. Your life began the day you died, and now you walk along my side. You're a cowboy in heaven because you believed in me. You're a cowboy in heaven because you believed in me.
Amen.
beautiful. And that was perfect. I bet that brought tears to people's eyes at the funeral.
Yeah, it was a little emotional, but you know, we was trying to keep things kind of up on the upbeat, but it's, you know,
Well,
this was.
but it was a lovely upbeat poem. Just because it's that, doesn't mean you can't cry.
Right, that's true.
It matched your shirt too.
It does.
There you go.
Had
Okay, all right. Tilted?
Yeah, well, I'm having to tilt it a little bit because we're so.
No, I don't, from my position, not.
Just look, well,
I'll just make,
wait till I get up there and see if
Okay.
you have to, to get all
Okay.
my head in.
do I have
You
to
don't need to
turn
get
something
one.
on, sweetie, or do you
No,
edit
it's
this?
going now. It's going, it hadn't stopped. It's getting
His head
everything.
tends to swell up.
So you just, see,
I'll
I think.
tilt if I
think,
have to.
Actually, I think we'll want it a little more like that.
Okay, that's perfect.
And maybe a few.
Yeah, Joe Dan's head tends to swell up when he gets behind the podium, so be careful, make sure you get it. Mine does too, I mean, I admit it, I freely admit it.
We're performance artists
Yeah.
of sorts.
By the way, I didn't mention it in my opening remarks, but I got to give my testimony, my Christian testimony at Pearly Baptist Church,
Oh,
up
what-
outside of Mount.
at Pearly.
Wow.
And,
Ah,
Okay, can you?
it's
You
perfect.
need to tilt it any?
no, it's perfect.
No, it's perfect.
Okay, I am not going to read a poem per se. I'm going to read. I have just finished reading a memoir called Composed. 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 It is the memoir of Roseanne Cash. Does everyone know who that is?
Yes.
One of Johnny's daughters, his oldest daughter, who herself, became, and still is to this day, a performing artist, as well as a songwriter. And I have to say, Composed is one of the finest written memoirs I have ever read by anybody.
Boy, that's saying a
I
lot.
highly recommend it if you ever get a chance to read it. And I jotted down several things that she had to say about, and she used the word poetry a lot for when she's talking about her songs, the words, the lyrics. She calls it her poetry, And she has observations throughout the book, the memoir, about poetry. And I jotted a few of them down. I want to share them with you. So, and this is peripherally related. She had a reference to something called Irish keening, K-E-E-I-N-G. Has anyone ever heard of that? Does anyone know what that is?
An Irish.
I can look it up, I got a.
No, I don't.
Say
I'm
it
gonna tell you
again.
what it is.
Oh, you're
Say it
gonna-
again.
Well, actually, I'm going to let her tell you what it is. But I'd never heard of it. She says, Irish keening, the
Oh.
sound of women
Crying.
wailing at the graves of their
Yeah.
loved ones. Long sustained, unbearably plaintive cries by the deepest sorrow to an art form. And she says the most human sound of the genesis of music. I thought that was just a beautiful observation about something I'd never heard of. Now, one of the other things she says in the book is that somewhere early in her career as a performance artist, someone told her to sing when she's performing, to sing to the 6% of every audience who are poets. And here's a little squib that I wrote down. I sang on a particular night. She said, I sang to the 6%, even if only 2% showed up on a given night. I sang to become better. I sang for the band if no one else was listening. In the just keep doing it until it felt like home. Just kept singing until it felt like home. I worked out a lifetime of self-doubt and music and emotions, vulnerabilities under the spotlight. Performance has been an enormous gift, cloaked at first in a mantle of risk and suspicion, only to reveal itself as the treasure I could not even define in 1978. The arena, I thought, was a circus tent of humiliation, actually held the available light of what was intended for me, for my life. This was, she writes this book, Memoir Composed, as a story of her life, and she's approximately 50 years old when it's published. I don't know, 2010, published 2010. She was about 50 when it was published. And, but it's not a chronological thing, you know. Each chapter moves around like a time like a shapeshifter in a time travel deal, you know. So there's no chronology to it. But here's another one. She says, she was talking about a compelling need to please people can be deadly. A compelling need to please people. And in talking about June Carter Cash, who was, of course, not her mother, became her stepmother, and she said, June did not give birth to me, but she helped me give birth to my future. Amazing, I think. There is not meaning in everything, but we can ascribe meaning to anything. And she talks about some of her poetry as postcards from her future, because she had seen several of her poems, lyrics to songs, really had no meaning to her when she wrote them beyond putting the words down on paper and that sort of thing. But they actually foretold something that was going to actually happen in her life. And I suppose all of us could say that maybe if we really examined our work carefully. She says creative work sometimes fosters a prescience, not a psychic premonition, but rather a release from linear time, a fluidity of movement to the continuum. She refers several times in the book to Psalm 102, which Dad, Johnny, so loved. And I'll just mention that in case if you're a Johnny Cash fan, you might consider rereading Psalm 102. Apparently it was his favorite psalm.
I'm not going to be able to hold this much longer. You get it?
Oh, and one little sentence that was just yanked out of a chapter. She said, "I was a writer. It would save me."
I can't hold this.
Think about that.
Okay.
She, at the time that she realized that she defined herself as a writer, she realized that alone would save her. And she also described herself one time in the book as prone to living inside her own thoughts. I don't know about you, but that describes me too, you know. Okay, now, one of my favorite quotes.
I can't hold it.
Oh, is it stopped?
I
no,
know
no,
I
no.
can't
You can't
hold
hold
it
it
much
anymore.
longer.
Oh.
That's hard.
Well, it may have run out too.
Oh, it's still going. It's still going. She just-
Okay. If the red deals go out, it stopped.
You'll focus it in on him.
Yeah.
I didn't
But I-
realize you were had an issue with.
Well, it's my shoulders and my back and
it's
my neck and
it's a health issue.
everything.
Okay. Pushed against me.
One of my favorite quotes has always been the one, is not hers, but someone else, that I've always thought was the most salient thing to point out to people who like to blame something that happened in their childhood, usually their parents, for something that's wrong with them or some reason for unhappiness, and I usually, my response, if asked, I usually don't just volunteer it, but my response if asked is usually something like, well, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And she said in one of the chapters, again, a sentence I lifted out of context, it's never too late to find who you have become. And this is something that Edward Hirsch has mentioned several times in his book. She said, I wanted to collaborate with other musicians and construct arrangements and song textures and poetry and get inside a rhythm and a beat and go into the studio like a painter and create something from nothing. And I thought this was something that all of us might want to keep in mind when we're writing poetry or prose. She showed one of her fairly early, so maybe it's kind of mid-career, a song that, just the lyrics that she was still working on. And I think she was to a point where she thought she might be done with it. And she showed it to John Stewart, who was somebody that she describes completely in the book. And his question to her, but where is the madness, Rose? And there were, to him, it wasn't complete because it had no madness in it. And again, I would have probably said magic instead of madness, but I understand, I think, where John Stewart was coming from, and she took the criticism literally and worked on it some more, and it helped her come up with, she thought, a much better song. Now, here is a lifted out of context. I am both limited and ennobled by words and rhyme. Limited and ennobled by words and rhyme. And here's a little further explanation of what she means by postcards from the future. She says, sometimes songs are indeed postcards from the future and are not written out of prescience as much as time travel. Thornton Wilder, quote, that she thinks is an important one that has inspired her a lot. You all remember, we did the Thornton Wilder play here at the Arts Center, our town. Mm-hmm. It is only in appearance that time is a river. It is rather a vast, broad scope, and it is in the eye of the beholder that moves. And finally, last little sheet of thoughts that I wrote down here while I was reading the book. Considering only the hard-earned craftsmanship of songwriting and get older, and as I get older, I have found the quality of my attention to be more important and more rewarding than the initial inspiration. 30 years ago, I would have said that the burst of inspiration and the ecstatic flood of feeling that comes with it were on an emotionally superior experience, preferable to the much more conventional requirements for the detailed work of refining, editing, and polishing, but the reverse is proving to be true. This is, I think, maturity. Reminds me of James Michener, who said the secret of good writing is rewriting. And I certainly found that to be true as I got older. And the last little scribble here says, I have a fear that I have a personal quota bestowed at birth of first-rate songs, poetry, allotted to me. And I worry after every new song, every new song I write, that I have finally reached that magic number. So inevitably, mixed with the satisfaction of accomplishment, is anxiety and sadness that this might be the end. Composed